Welcome to this edition of Cup Chat with Birding with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. Today we invite special guest Dr. Blake Grisham from Texas Tech University to discuss his favorite bird, purple martins. We hope you enjoy. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cup Chat with Birding with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. And good morning. We have an amazing special guest, and we're so excited to have him join us for his first Cup Chat ever. First, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to bet it's not his last. So Dr. Blake Grisham, he is with Texas Tech University, and he has a fancy title that really goes with, and he runs the Llano Texas Tech, not the Llano, where am I going?
No, you're right. Llano River Field Station.
Okay.
Texas Tech at Junction. You were
at
there.
Texas Tech at Junction. I was like, God, he's not in Llano. He's in Junction. Okay. So anyways, we're excited to have Dr. Grisham joining us today. And we were talking all about purple martins. So before we dive into letting him talk, of course, we have to give a free 30-second commercial for Purple Martin Day. And so Blake, since you've never joined us, free 30-second commercials. Usually I let you give them for anything you want.
Okay.
But today you have to give a free 30-second commercial for why people should attend Purple Martin Day. And so Purple Martin Day is July 11th and 12th. Correct, Maureen?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it is we're going to partnership program with the Texas Tech Junction campus and so we are going to be focusing all about purple martin. So we have one package that is just on the 11th, which is just Purple Martin Day. And then the second option is a Purple Martin extended package where you'll be included in all the Purple Martin Day activities, an evening dinner, birds, bats, and owls, hopefully owls, crossing our fingers. Blake, you have to find one of those before July. And then the next morning, we are going on a guided bird walk there at the Llano River. I'm
going to take over. You drink your coffee. So the advertisement.
The free 30-second commercial.
So I got a 30-second spot.
Ish.
Like this.
We're never good at staying within 30 seconds. And Emily and I are also going to give 30-second commercials to feed off of it. So go.
Okay. I didn't develop any media. So this may lack the old razzle dazzle, and I apologize. Purple Martin Day will be June 11th, and the extended day July 11th will be the extended day is July 12th with the birding team, my staff and myself at the Llano River Field Station, and numerous other experts. And this is our first event of this kind, collaborating with your team. And my plug is I finally, after 15 years, I've got my federal master banding permits in place, and so we're gonna, part of it will be hands-on opportunities with purple martin chicks, banding them, seeing the adults, and attempting to capture them. But as part of some of the research we have going on at the field station, we'll also be attempting to capture barn swallows, cliff swallows, and other birds that we're doing research on. So lots of more hands-on opportunities that just became available yesterday.
That is a huge, everybody give a big congratulations to Dr. Grisham, because I think, we see it's easy to see bird research and be like, oh yeah, there's scientists that have permits to ban birds. And that's just, there's a lot of different permits that we apply for, right? Like there's all sorts of different things that we need to do. But there's a range of how easy or hard that is to get. And so you say, 15 years of trying to get permits, before you were eligible to get that permit is a big deal. So that banding permits are definitely not just handed out. It takes a lot to get one. So huge kudos to Blake for now being a master bander. I think you need a t-shirt or a mug or something that says,
I know, just add it to my title, Emily.
Yeah.
No, I'm really excited about that. I've always enjoyed banding songbirds and smaller birds. Most of my research in the past has been on large birds that, and those are easier to obtain, the permits, because most of them are non-migratory and resident within state. But the USGS Bird Banding Lab coordinates all the birds under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And myriad and plethora of experience. And to even order the equipment to capture them, you have to provide the permits. And we could probably do a cup chat soapbox edition on the permitting process.
We've talked about just like vicinity in general before, but I do see a future cup chat here for sure. Yes.
Permits are important. They're necessary, and we must have them to ensure ethical and, safe guidelines for the people studying the animals and any lure animals. So I'm not downplaying that. I'm downplaying how much time we spend on every single research project to get every single one. Like for the aerial insectivore initiative that we're starting in Purple Martins, we have the bird banding lab, master banding, parks and wildlife, Texas State Research education permits as well, Texas Tech institutional animal care and use private land permits. And each one in general is like, I don't know, a full day of drafting.
I think that's a good, and for those who are coming to Purple Martin Day to kind of understand how special it is, because it's not just like, oh, we decided to do this at the field station. Like Blake has been doing a lot of background work to get all the permits and everything lined up so that everybody can be there. So, and
it's super illegal for anyone without these permits to even do it. Don't touch wildlife. And we cover that in our wildlife techniques class, the permitting process, and it kind of opens the eyes about how difficult yet important it is. And as part of the Puma Day, I'll go over those things in detail, down to showing my individual bands, how they're coordinated with USGS, and how I have to report them and the ramifications of messing up. I mean, it's serious and it's important, and it's seriously important for all the right reasons.
And I think it's also neat. I mean, just kind of to put minds at ease when people are realizing like, oh my gosh, like y'all are handling birds. Does that have negative impacts? And it's like, we go through so much to make sure that we minimize the impacts. And so you can be assured that if somebody has those permits, they went through a lot to get them. So
yes. And I love the idea of Purple Martin Day for lots of reasons. But one of the main reasons, aerial insectivores, swallows, Purple Martins are the largest one in North America. They are friendly in hand, as in they don't stress. So they're a really good education animal. So when you're capturing wildlife, you're going to have a good reason. And there's two really good reasons: collect information that ensures population persistence or answers a question that helps with population persistence, or education and training in a very formal setting. And that's why I'm so excited, because Martins, I train most of my undergrads handling Martins, how to band birds, because they're like, hey, what's up? And they don't suffer from myopathy, as that's when you, after you work out, that lactic acid, same thing, but in their heart and lungs. And a lot of birds are susceptible to capture myopathy and they die. Like wild turkeys, I've never teach anyone how to band birds, wild turkeys. They have about 3 minutes before they're dead. And that's all seriousness because of their physiology. So I like this model because under the proper guidance, anyone can hold them and learn how to band them under my permits.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you got your permits and did your hours and hours of paperwork and tiring experience to get those. So we're excited about the unique banding experience. So Maureen, you have your 30-second free commercial, which obviously now you can't take Blake's because
it's going to be super short because I knew we were probably going to go long and get distracted. Purple Martin Day is July 11th. It's going to be super hot. We're not exclusive, but we're not trying to attract people who are not already in Texas. But if you're in Texas, you're going to be hot and miserable anyhow. So you might as well be hot and miserable with a Purple Martin in your hand.
And we got a river you can go take a drink in.
Bonus, there's a river. So, yep.
Good point, Maureen. And we do understand that it will be warm. We have focused our outside activities in the morning as much as possible, and we'll rotate you in on the AC. But we didn't just pick July because we wanted to stand out in the heat either. So that kind of leads us to our second question. We're going to skip number 1 because it's a good lead in. Dr. Grisham, why is Purple Martin Day in July?
Because that's when I can ban the chicks. It has to do with their breeding phenology and how they migrate and then arrive in North America and lay eggs and hatch chicks. So They're neotropical migrants, which means their entire population migrates south in our winter, and they spend their winters on small islands on the Amazon. There's a really neat paper funded by PMCA, Disney, with numerous qualified and really just amazing experts on purple martins. They collaborate on this big study using geolocators before modern technology allowed for really small GSM units. And they discovered that, like most of the population, which is fairly large, they aggregate in the thousands on these very small islands. And the PMCA has a really good YouTube video of Joe and his crew on the Amazon, just like driving up in the boat and banding them. They have the permits to do that, but there's so many of them. There's like 10,000 in a bush. So they'll spend their winters on those little islands eating bugs. That's what aerial or insects. That's what they exclusively forage on. And then about January, they're one of the first migrants we have in the United States. They start moving north into Mexico, southern Texas, Louisiana. In Louisiana, in one of my former study areas, I could almost set my clock on January 15th of them being there. If you get down into South Texas, Port Mansfield in the valley, they might be residents, maybe not. They're there early. And as you go up in latitude and into Canada, the migrants are later, and they just work their way up. In general, what's amazing among most of these colonies, with the exception of a few that are further south, they typically all start laying their eggs about the second week of May, which is about this last week or so. Then they have about a 14 to 21 day incubation period where both parents will switch off incubating eggs. And then the chicks hatch. Clutch sizes range from 3 to 7 eggs, depending on lots of factors. The chicks are artificial, so they cannot take care of themselves. They're the ugly pink birds. They're not the cute fluffy things. So they stay in the nest, and the parents bring them insects. They switch off again. And just because of the timing, about the first week and second week of July, the chicks are almost ready to fledge those cavities, as in they're leaving the nest. They're going to hang out nearby, but they can fly. There's no need for them to stay inside the cavity all day. They might stay there at night, but they're about the same size of the adults. So we can just literally put a paintbrush or block the hole, lower the gourd, pull them out, put a band on them, put them back in. And that's as hard as it is. It's just all timing with when they nest and have their chicks in the United States and southern Canada.
So you talked about a colony. Explain that, because we don't normally.
Wait, pause before we go colony, just because I thought of something really cool. Because Blake did a good job. Like, no, we're gonna come back to it. Don't worry.
It was a question.
You look so sad. No, I know. I want you to explain colonies, but this was the first part of what Blake said. He did such a good job explaining like where they are in the US, but I want to use one of our super cool tools and share with everybody the eBird abundance map so that you can see the animation and like visualize. So this is starting January 1st. And then the darker colors represent higher densities of, the higher densities basically of purple martins. And so you can kind of see throughout the year. So as we run through the year, and I will share this link so that anybody can check it out and you can like look at your particular area and where they are, but then we're just kind of cycling through. So like there's that peak where we've got a lot of them. And then of course more as babies hatch, but then you can see where they go down in the Amazon, which I think is super cool. So I just wanted to share that, and I'll put this link in so that you can like pause it and check it out more. And now I have to figure out, remember how to stop screen sharing. There we go. Okay. Now ask your colony question, because this is a great question.
So Blake, so you talked about colonies, and I think that's an interesting piece because maybe it's not something we use in a lot of our other species. Why do we have purple martin colonies? And like, explain colonies, I guess, just dive in.
Okay. So I probably won't be using official scientific terminology for a colony because everything is dependent upon things. But the way we define it, that we're going to define it for our work, a colony is an aggregate group of artificial houses that are within a certain distance from each other, within 30 to 60 feet, where they all nest and have their chicks in individual houses, but as groups. So colony is a whole bunch of breeding purple martins that are in one area. They're extremely social.
Do we always select, or is the junction colony always the same birds, or do new purple martins join in?
We're collecting those data. So the Lionel River Field Station, the colony there, I took it over in 2016-17. It wasn't real productive, and the reason is it wasn't maintained. If you have artificial houses for purple martins, you have to eradicate house sparrows and European starlings. There's no nice way to put it. You have to kill them because they will take over and completely remove purple martins from the scene. House sparrows are 8 grams of aggression. They're invasive exotics. They have to go. Those artificial houses on the racks and within the colony, and I'll explain the definitions in just a second, were just packed with house sparrow nests. We had 1 pair of purple martins in 2016. We started active managing. That means starting about February, clean out the house sparrow nests, keep them out, remove them, prep them, prep the cavities, the houses for purple martins with a little bit of pine straw, and then actively shush and remove the house sparrows as they nest. We worked up until 2019 was the last time I checked pre-COVID, and we were up to about 7 nesting pairs, which is really good for 12 gourds. It takes a little while. You have to be patient. And then COVID hit, and then I had an ankle injury, so we weren't able to, actively manage those houses and that colony for 2 years. And we went back, I went back last year, and we only had like 3 nesting pairs left. House sparrows took back over. This year, let me look at my dates. We have 12 nesting pairs. I just look, that's the highest we've ever had. And that's intensive management. And when I mean intensive, Mr. Leslie, the research coordinator at the field station, Ms. Mac, the K through 12 teacher, they keep eyes on the gourds. And we have permits and all the protocols in place to ethically euthanize house sparrows. We do that daily, and we trap them, we remove them. Now, a lot of people may not do it to that extent, but it is necessary at some level. We've been banding the chicks. Emily, we haven't had any band returns at our colony, but it's still too early. Mr. Jim Ray, who started all of this work that I'm talking about, this is his life work. This is not mine. I'm just an advocate for everything he's done. He's had his colony in Canyon, Texas, longer than I think I've been alive. He'll correct me, but he's banded approximately 15 to 16,000 purple martins at his colony. And his return rate through banding studies is extremely high, 70 to 80% of the adults. The sub-adults from the previous year typically disperse. One thing we're going to do with some of the research is I hope to pull some a little bit of blood or take a feather or two to look at genetic connectivity of these new colonies as we establish them across the state, to assess, what kind of impact we're having by adding houses, and then, what happens as people ebb and flow with their maintenance, because there will be individuals like our field station will maintain them 100%. And there might be people who put up a house or a colony, sell the property, and it's gone. So there's some different things there. So the return rate is really high. It's usually the adults. I think Jim had an adult female that he captured 13 years in a row. I think that might have been the longevity record for his colony.
Cool.
He'll correct. These are our approximate, not precise. It's really long.
Wow.
So I have a couple follow-up things, like a couple things you touched on, also a research idea to talk to you about later. I'm gonna keep it in my head for right now.
Don't talk about it in public. People watching.
Well, no. I just mean because it'll take us a while.
Yeah,
I'm totally willing to share it. Actually, it's another cup chat topic too. That I think about it. Talk about you mentioned that patience of like getting the colonies set up and waiting. And so I think for a lot of people, it's like we've got purple martin houses. And actually I just talked to some master naturalists just last week about this. And, they got them set up and they know that it takes time, but like, how do you increase the chance that they're going to come use your houses, and how long does it take? Because it's so hard to be so excited and they're just empty, or you're just trying to get rid of house sparrows.
So the Wildlife Society at Texas Tech, we put up 2 racks. So a rack is a unit that holds the individual houses, and the colony is anything more than 2 racks. So we had our colony at the range barn, which had 2 racks, 48 houses. We put those up in 2016. I took them down last year. Just was not the right site. There's a lot of other things going on with construction across the street. Just wasn't happening. And we took every step possible to recruit them. And here's what we did in addition to just putting up the houses. One, you have to have artificial houses. Purple martins are cavity nesters, and they're unique in that they almost exclusively, the eastern subspecies almost exclusively nest in artificial housing, like 99% of the population.
So how did that start? Like because before people were here putting up houses, like how long have people been putting up houses for purple martins?
The best available evidence, we did a little literature synthesis on kind of the evolution of transitioning from natural cavities to artificial cavities. And there's some reports dating back to the 1700s from Europeans that said various Native American tribes in the eastern United States hung gourds, natural gourds. Yeah. And the birds slowly transitioned to nesting in those. And the reason why is, like any good scientific theory or hypothesis, is heavily contested. And I'm a new guy in the purple martin world. I like purple martins for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that they're not endangered grouse. So I don't have to get into the politics and the science conflicts, but there's various hypotheses. One is protection from predators. Humans, we're kind of bad for animals in general when we're not doing the right thing, so they stay away from us. The other one is another hypothesis is the idea of extra pair copulations, as in you have male, female, female flies away for a few minutes to feed, male copulates with another female, vice versa. And in the Darwinian world, that means increased fecundity, hopefully. And there's a few other hypotheses. And my statement on that is we live in a multivariate world. It's probably all of them. So, but there's confirmation that Native Americans were hanging in gourds. They're like, hey, new apartments, and it just transitioned to what it is. And now with starlings, house sparrows, the last native cavity in eastern United States was in Orlando, which was destroyed in a hurricane. So I think there's about 99% of the population is all artificial housing. And we published a paper that shows, okay, this is actually really important for population persistence. That's kind of what got some of this research started in collaboration with Jim and the Purple Martin Conservation Association. So don't know the entire story, but a lot of benefits. And that's one of the other reasons I love martins and using them as an education tool is they're around humans. They're just one of us. If we bug them, they'll fly up for a few minutes and come right back down, like school children at the lawn order field station run right underneath the gourds, and teachers and who are not from other school districts, not familiar, like, is that an issue? Like, no, let them go. They're fine. And even when we're banding, they're just kind of looking at us like, what are you doing? So they're really patient. And so if you're putting up your own house and your own colony, 2 to 3 years would be the first one, but you have to prep them in January, February, put pine needles in, keep the house sparrows out through clips, or keep the cavities closed until, and then trap and remove them once they happen. And you can get permits from Parks and Wildlife. Any citizen can get house sparrows and starling permits to remove them. And then there's a few other mechanisms. There's the dawn song, which is a song that the birds sing early in the morning. And as others are migrating through, which they migrate early in the morning at night, they're like, oh, I hear that, and they go check it out. that works really well. There's little decoys that are sold at PMCA, their website. All of those tricks work really well. You just have to expect, I usually tell people 2 to 3 years. After 3 years, if you don't have something, you need to reassess the possible issues. And the PMCA has really good placement guidelines on their website about where to put your rack in your colony.
Well, that is super. That was great tips and tricks. I like that one. Oh, you said you had a bunch of follow-up questions, but I have questions.
Well, no, that was you covered a lot of them. The other thing I just kind of wanted to emphasize was this idea of lethally removing sparrows and starlings is really hard for people, and I get that. Like it's not easy to have a bird in your hand and to kill that bird. But from a conservation standpoint, it's so important to remember that these are an exotic species that are completely going to outcompete not just purple martins, but so many other things. And so the fact that if you are able to trap them and get rid of them from a purple martin house, because there's a lot of different techniques, people talk about like just destroying their nests to get them out of there. But the problem is if you just destroy the nest, the house sparrows are just going to re-nest and maybe somewhere else. Maybe they're going to go in some other, because they're very adaptable. So they're just going to go somewhere else and kick some other species out. So as much as that's hard, and even after you've done it a lot of times, it's still hard. It's really important. And so know that it is completely like, because of the way that they're exotic species, you can get those permits from Parks and Wildlife. Anybody can do them. You can learn about how to best do it and how to do it like in an ethical manner that's going to be a quick death for those birds, which is so hard to talk about. But I just wanted to emphasize that is an important part of doing good purple martin conservation, and for bluebirds, all kinds of species. So.
Everything that nests in a cavity in United States and Canada their populations are declining. Eastern bluebird, great crested flycatcher, every single woodpecker, every single aerial insectivore. And one of the primary reasons is house sparrows and European starlings. In our wildlife techniques class, we actually have our students under our guidance. We teach them how to euthanize house sparrows and those purple martin birds. It's tough, but that's a realistic component to being a professional wildlife biologist, is that it's not always getting to handle the ocelot kittens, which is cool, but you have to do what's best under certain situations that may not make you feel all warm and fuzzy. And we've had a few people ask, well, can you train house sparrows to go over here and nest? Yeah, you can, but you're right, Dr. Frank. You have to remove them. It's not negotiable. It's not an option. You have to euthanize house sparrows and European starlings, period. And it's tough. And if any, the citizens or people watching are uncomfortable with that, that's part of the field stations. Our goal is service-based. We'll help with those things. And, with professional courtesy and understanding. It's not something we enjoy or glamorize doing. We see it as an important component of the job that if we don't, we're putting numerous declining cohorts of birds at risk by not doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really important. I didn't mean to go on. It's just really important how important that is.
Let's jump to a key thing you said in aerial insectivores. And I will tell you that I've learned what these are. And we're going to talk about, and we've got some great questions in the chat. So probably last actual question, and then we'll jump into some of the questions in the chat. But I've been so thrilled with my aerial insectivores at my house, which is so weird. So I live in town, and I have tons of barn swallows. Tons every morning. And, I guess I've never really enjoyed barn swallows before, but their coloring in the mornings has just been beautiful. So
they're growing on you.
They are growing on me.
They are so pretty. The iridescence is so pretty.
Being such a pain sometimes in nesting where we don't necessarily want them to nest, they are really pretty birds. So, but they are an aerial insectivore, as are purple martins. So, Blake, kind of dive into what is an aerial insectivore and why do they get this special title?
Because that's the cohort. Every genus and species, particularly species in that family, which is in order Passeriformes, just perching birds, order Hyaridinidae. They exclusively forage for insects on the wing. Now, they're like less than 3% of their foraging is insects on the ground. And those are just, hey, there's a donut, might as well eat it. The thing is, they are built for aerial combat, and they exclusively forage for insects on the wing, and exclusively means like greater than 97%. Like their entire diet is insects. Like mine is like 97% steak with a little bit of beer. Same thing. And so in North America, that's why they get the special title, is because all of those species do exactly that. So their evolutionary lineage, their physical traits are, demonstrate, that they're built for flight in the and capturing things, insects in the air. Really long pointed wings, like you would see on a falcon, for quick flight. Tail feathers, the rectrices, are really long, and they're highly mobile to help move and make quick adjustments in the air. And it's really cool. Bats, sometimes when they do sonar, they'll hit an insect and they'll slap it with their tail and put it up in their mouth. Sometimes swallows will do that as well. So they have really long bodies that are bullet shaped, aerodynamic, really long pointed wings, really small bills with lots of modified feathers called phyloplumes to allow them to detect minor air current and changes in the air, so they can rapidly switch and eat the insects. That's why they get that special thing, because they just love bugs, and they're really, really, really elegant flyers.
Okay, I have something fun because, and also it's kind of two things, because I remembered that I yesterday on Instagram said, ask us if you have any questions. And I know Emily has questions too, so that's what reminded me, but we only got one, but it says, what do you call a group of purple martins? So like it's a colony that houses, but what if you've just got like a flock of purple martins?
Wait, I'm pausing you. Pausing you on that question, because I'm going to go back to his aerial insectivores.
Oh, sorry. Fair.
She was jumping. And so when we talk about making the case, one thing that he talked about was, really those long tail feathers. And one of our big things is,
it doesn't work with your background.
I'm quitting. Okay. One of the big things in making the case we talk about is silhouettes and narrowing down our ID. And so if you'll go look at your field guide, look at that silhouette of those of that swallow family and how unique that is. Of a silhouette, and kind of can always be a really good ID to know that goes with that family, and that shape and silhouette. So I just thought that was really, as I looked up to make sure my ID was correct this morning.
Yeah, no, but the silhouette is a good point on swallows and swallows versus swifts too. So while Blake is looking up, is getting the right page, and you can.
This is not my primary bird book. Sorry, I have.
No, you're good. While he's oh, there we go. Okay, yeah.
So that's purple martins. They're the largest. They're big, but you can see the long pointed wings, the long tails. This is either a cliff or cave swallow. I can't read it here, but still you can see all of
the general silhouette is very similar in all of this. The swallow species.
But then like that notched tail on the barn swallow, you're like, oh, it's a barn swallow.
Yeah, that's exactly how you tell.
Like that deep
I still have a little bit of issue between cliff and cave swallows. Those are probably the two hardest to identify among all of them. But the others, purple martins, barn swallows, northern rough-winged bank tree, there's a few others. They're pretty distinguishable and easy, but they all have that general shape that Emily was discussing, just at different sizes.
So I'm going to start a new thing for our cup chat guests. I'm afraid to make this like a requirement because we may lose some because of this, but Emily and I for a while now have talked about like our dabbling dance move. And then last week when Tammy was on, we talked about ticks and like sensing for carbon monoxide, or carbon dioxide. So like this is their dance move. So Blake, I think there's a purple martin dance move, right? Because they're so swift and maneuverable. So they're like hanging out and so I think that this is going to be a new thing, is each cup chat guest has to have a dance move that they can contribute. And then at some point we're going to have a dance party. Oh
I will
no.
contribute in the future. I have not thought about my Purple Martin dance move.
No, that's your dance. That's what I'm saying. Like you just came up with it. That you got to do like the.
I mean, the
And then they
specifics.
like go really quick. So.
My neck will snap if I try that. I have to be methodical. I'm riddled. The,
All right, let's hammer
Okay,
through
sorry,
your
go ahead,
Instagram question.
No,
What's your answer?
Oh yeah, the Instagram question was just what do you call a group of Purple Martins?
Oh,
Other than just a flock. Like if you see a bunch of Purple Martins, you're like, hey, there's a I don't know.
I'm actually when you asked that to answer that question, this is what I love about being a scientist. Don't know. I'm looking it up. I am confident saying I have no clue. That's a good question. And I'm at the Birds of the World, the Cornell website, and I'm looking up the information. It might just take me a second to navigate. It may be there, it may not, but I'm looking.
Okay, so I will look that up while you answer Emily's other.
No, this Blake can look that up. He's already in. I've got one for you, Maureen. Are house sparrows considered as invasive as feral hogs?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So that's not something that we like necessarily rank, like different invasiveness of species, because you could be like, well, what about like boa constrictors in the Everglades? So there's a lot of things that go into that question. We could have a whole cup chat on invasive species, but there's things to think about. What sort of impact do they have? Like how many species do they impact? What ecological niche are they impacting? How widespread are they? Because if you're in the Everglades, like boa constrictors are terrible, but here, boa constrictors are never going to set up shop in Uvalde. Like that's should hopefully never be a concern. The types of impacts they're having, like house geckos, Mediterranean house geckos are an exotic species. They're invasive. They're everywhere. But I've got to think that they displace something, but they don't have as huge of an impact as other things because they're mostly hanging out on our houses, like where we've already created a disturbance. So yeah, house sparrows are super invasive. I don't know how you would necessarily compare them to feral hogs, but this sounds like something that we could get like John and Blake, maybe to Dr. Tomachek and Blake to maybe could have a debate on which is more invasive. That could be super fun.
Feral hogs, it all depends on how you rank them.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many factors.
The damage from feral hogs is just insurmountable.
Yeah. And especially when there's there's economic damage, right? Like from our side of things, but then you also consider feral hogs increase erosion. That's a huge issue, like water quality concerns. Feral hogs definitely went out on that, as opposed to house sparrows are affecting a very large number of species, but they're not having some of those feral hogs modify the environment in a way that house sparrows don't. So in that regard, in that regard, I would give feral hogs the edge as being probably the most destructive. But this is a fascinating topic for discussion. So.
It is because for my area expertise, house sparrows are exponentially worse because of all those declining cohorts of birds. But that's just me and how I rank them as an expert in birds. I looked on the website, the Cornell website, the Birds of North America. I'm sifting through the information, and I'll look and follow up. There appears not to be an official name for let's call them a flock of purple martins, because of numerous reasons. But a lot of it has to do with how they fluctuate in and out of various colonies or racks. There's high site fidelity, some areas, others not. So they're not really, there's really no official term for, a colony of birds. Like at the field station, we wouldn't call that something. We just call them our purple martin colonies. So
in other words, Blake, it sounds like this is an area in which you could come up with a term for purple martins if you wanted to.
I could, but then you have to go through the peer review process.
But on Cup Chat, there are no rules. So if you wanted to chunk out maybe what you would say would be a group, and we would actually not go through a peer review process, and we would just let you on Cup Chat. It's an official Cup Chat term.
But you don't have to come up with it right now. You can think about it.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. I was
gonna say that's a lot of pressure. I'm not good at stuff like that. So
we have another question. Since purple martins are early migrants arriving, are they more susceptible to extreme/late cold winter storms like Uri in 2021?
Yes. I spoke. So I was at the field station in early February this year when that really that cold snap came through Texas. It wasn't as bad as Uri, but we had a few days where it was below 20 in the hill country and further south, which is really cold. And I happened to be emailing Joe Segrist, the CEO and chief scientist and president of the Purple Martin Conservation Association. And I started asking him a few questions about arrival and impacts given that cold spell, and they're severe to migrating birds that are coming in. Hypothermia, they're small, they're insectivores, they have high metabolism. The additional thermal stress associated with trying to regulate their body temperature causes them to starve to death or have other physiological maladaptations that kills them, or direct collisions from ice and things like that. And in terms of nesting and timing of nesting, not really. If a cold snap happens early, like in May, I remember a few years ago in Lubbock on May 12th, we got snow in Lubbock. May 12th was a few days ago here, and it was 106. Freak snowstorms and cold spells like that while they have eggs. If it's just for a night, they can incubate and probably be okay. But with thermal tolerances, as you get beyond 24 to 48 hours with those cold spells, it's pretty bad from nesting. And then you have to think about how those cold spells kill insects, their food source. So the impacts of both extreme cold and heat are severe.
Well, that's neat. We have a comment from one of our wonderful birding buddies, Miss Barbara, on what her Cup Chat collective name would be. It is a twittering of purple martins. So super cute.
I like that.
But we are wrapping up. We are, of course, over time. Blake, thank you so much for joining us. But as a fun end of the day, for your first Cup Chat, as a guest, we would like you to pick our giveaway winner. And so we have 7 people who have commented on today's post. So get those comments in really quick as I explain what you could win. So we are going to give away a regular access pass to Purple Martin Day. And you are more than welcome to upgrade if you would like to the extended version. But we are going to give away a regular July 11th Cup Chat attendance. So, Blake, please pick a number between 1 and 7.
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Miss Lisa Woods is our winner today. Congratulations. We will be messaging you to get your information to share how you can join us for Purple Martin Day. So I'm super excited, everyone. Blake, thank you for joining us, and thank you so much for sharing all the neat opportunities that there were with Purple Martins.
Thank you guys very much.
Maureen, anything?
No, just I'm excited. I'm even more excited for Purple Martin Day than I already was. And I have been learning a lot through this process as well. And I'm just excited to have this partnership with Blake. And yeah, it's going to be fun.
Well, and y'all don't worry, Miss Lisa Woods has already upgraded her package. So we're excited.
I'd like to end my thing by thanking Mr. Blake Leslie and Cheyenne Mack at the field station for diligently taking care of those. When I knew we'd have 5 or 6 nesting pairs this year, just based on previous numbers, but counting 12 is due to their efforts. And it's always risky having a Purple Martin Day at a new colony, but I think it's important to do it to show how these things ebb and flow over time and how to maintain them. I didn't expect 12 nesting pairs, and that's a great number. So thank you to Blake and Cheyenne for working really hard to maintain them, because that means the visitors will have a better time.
Well, and I know so I'm going to get my free, I know we're supposed to be wrapping up, but I'm going to get my free 30-second commercial in right now. And so I'm really excited for Purple Martin Day because Blake has a surprise for everybody, and we've kind of shared the surprise, but he has set up a new Purple Martin colony, and we are working on a new, yes, you have, right? At another location. And so in our extended version, we are going to get to go to the Heart of the Hills Fisheries and see where Blake has created a new purple martin, right? I said that right. Created a new purple martin colony and talk about the citizen science projects that are available through and the research that they're doing there. And plus we'll get to do a little bit of birding. So we're super excited to go over there and see the research that Blake has started with the fisheries, the fishery.
Fisheries Science Center. So we haven't installed their racks yet, and I anticipate prepping the materials and doing it with the guests that morning to provide expert opinion and insights on how to install these racks where it doesn't take 12 hours, which has happened before. Students who don't know how to use a drill. Anyway, but aside from that, it's not the PMCA website and other individuals have really good instructions on how to do it, but it's easier once you see it, and we can. So we're gonna have all this the everything prepped, and then we're gonna do it right there to save time. But it'll be a really good Q&A session on how to pick a site and then how to install them successfully.
Wonderful. Ooh, that's even better. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Any final words, Maureen?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you again, Blake.
Well, we will see y'all all next week. So thank y'all so much and happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, guys. Thank you guys very much.